So today it is my great pleasure to be able to interview Celtic Sheila.
That's
So
me.
welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So I always pull two cards, and the cards I got for Sheila for today, we've got sovereignty
Ooh,
and the scholar,
mm,
investigation and research, which I think is quite
fitting.
apropos. It fits for her, so we'll get into that in a while, I am sure. So, the first thing I like to ask with our people that come on for interview is about your past. Did you grow up with any kind of a religious background or spiritual background? So, what was that growing up?
Well, I grew up with parents from Texas in a Mormon household, so I'm nothing like they wanted me to be. I promise you that. It was a little tough. I was six out of seven children. Um, it was weird. My mother, she wasn't a good mother. My father really wasn't a good father either. So we kind of all fended for ourselves, truly. And as far as having gifts, I just kind of knew when danger was coming. You know what I mean? In my own family, I just had that. I thought everybody had it, kind of a thing. So as I'm growing up, I was not, like nobody knew what was going on inside of me. Nobody knew what talents I had. Nobody even talked about. In fact, I was told throughout my whole childhood that that's devil's work. Don't do it. Stay away, all that kind of stuff. So, the upbringing was the upbringing that we had in the 80s, and I'm not alone. There was a lot of children out there that had awful parents. So,
That's for sure. So when it comes to your background and you say you had these things coming in, how did that affect you and exactly what was it that you were experiencing with these gifts that came in?
well, some of my first, I think empath kind of hit me first. I kind of knew, without trying to tell a whole bunch about it, but my father was not nice either. And so I always knew when like he was a MP, he was a military police. And so I always knew when he was coming home because he would come home at random times because that was his job. And I just had that feeling. I knew he was coming home, so I'd gather up my little younger brother and we'd head to the bedroom and we'd hide out and try to figure out if he's coming home happy or mean that night. So
Yeah,
those were
so
the first things.
that was the first thing. And so then how did that expand for you, coming into a more spiritual awareness, etc.?
A lot of it had to do with rejection. I rejected my organized religion teachings. I remember being in a Sunday school one day, and they were telling us all about how to get into heaven, and then they told us all the things that you could do that you wouldn't be able to get into heaven, right? And I remember sitting there going, "I'm screwed. There's no way I can follow this idea of perfection." And I knew that I wasn't evil, you know what I mean? And I just sat there like everybody else is going to heaven, but except for me. And that was my childhood thought and expression. I started rejecting organized religion at 7 or 8 years old, even young. Well, seven, it was about around seven. I recognized it that I said, I'm screwed. I'm probably going to hell, and all these people are going to heaven, and I need to get out of here as fast as I can.
So when did your gifts expand into other areas?
So my gifts were kind of silent and quiet for quite some time. I would get remote views. I used to call it hijacking. I didn't know really what was going on. I would be either in school or doing something or whatever, and all of a sudden my focus was on this like film. It was coming to me. I knew when my grandmother was going to die because I saw it in a film, you know what I mean? I knew when, I can't explain it. I don't have a vague memory of just watching things. And I remember going, that feels so weird, and I don't understand. And I knew that whatever I was seeing was kind of coming true. And you don't say that. You become a silent child at this point because you can't tell nobody. You don't want to be weird. Of course, no matter what, you want your mother's love. You want your parents' love. And so I kind of that started happening and all that. So, anyways, fast forward through the childhood, you kind of muddle through and just get through. And then I had got married, and then I had children. And through my 20s, I was really focused on and raising children and going to college and getting that done. And of course, I got a divorce while I was in tw my 20s with my first husband, and and stuff like that. All of that stuff was going on. But what was nagging at me the most, there was one time I spent a little bit of time with my third oldest sister, and she was into tarot cards. And I was like 20, 21 years old, and I went to go visit her, and she showed me all these tarot cards, and she was reading and this, that, and the other. And I fell in love. I fell head over heels with this tarot card and this whole idea of metaphysical. And I was exposed for maybe one night of it. And so I took all of that and I went and got my own, and I just kind of, and I all by myself, I've kind of investigated and connected and attached myself to a lot of metaphysical information. So anyways, going past through that, and I just felt like I was starving myself from doing the metaphysical work. In my late 20s, I just like, what is wrong? What's going on? What am I missing? Where am I at? Right? And so when I turned 30, finally my children were, they could go to the bathroom by themselves, and they were going to school. And so I had a little bit of, and finally started turning back to my metaphysical thoughts and feelings, I should say. And I tried to do a whole bunch of schooling around it, but the more I learned, the less my gifts were there. Does that make any sense? It's like every time I try to like go into a metaphysical class or something like that to learn more about it, I kind of lost my natural abilities. I remember saying, how is it that so much information in my head is diminishing what my natural abilities are? And so I kind of just, I'm like, all right, I'm just, I'm just gonna go off of what I feel and what I think and what I do. So I
Right.
hope that explained it all.
No, that explains it perfectly. So, I found that as well, that I can't go off of what somebody else feels that the cards mean, etc. Never looked at those things. It's about spending time with it yourself and seeing what it means to you because it is something that we are interacting with to key into things that bring forth our own understanding and knowledge when it comes to that.
Absolutely. I always tell everybody, I say, don't let anybody tell you that you're reading cards incorrectly. I said, that's not an option. That's not possible.
Right,
You know, it's not possible. It's whatever you feel. Especially if you're reading intuitively, I could bring up a card and intuitively feel something totally different than what the card says. It's like, I don't know why this card says this or why I'm feeling this way, but this is the reading, right?
right.
So, yeah.
So that's why you have sovereignty because
Yes.
it has to be in your own field and your own understanding that comes forward. So
Right.
when did you start looking more deeply into doing more of the remote viewing, and how did that expand
Mhm.
for you?
So actually, I didn't start doing like consciousness remote viewing until I got on YouTube. So like I said, all of my life, I always called it a hijacking. I thought it was weird. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what to call it. Like I said, I've kind of turned away from my educational part of metaphysical. So I'm like, how we go. I'm like, I don't know, but let's just go on with life. So I get onto YouTube, and I'm starting to see a few things about remote viewing or astrophysical, travel and this, that, and the other. And it finally dawned on me one day. Oh, that's what's been happening to me. I didn't know that's what was going on. So once I started going onto YouTube and doing a little bit of investigation about what was going on, and I started connecting the dots, I then one day, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, One day I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do a video and see how it goes because I don't know. And I remember the video because I looked on the everybody, I'm like, I'm gonna do an experiment. And you're going along with me. We'll see how this goes. I don't know. And I just closed my eyes and I did a remote view. And I finally understood that I can connect sort of on purpose, or I don't even know how to describe it. Like the energy's always there, and then my willingness became connected. Does that make sense? Instead of just being hijacked all the time.
Yes,
Therefore, I was able to, because nobody directs spirit. So I don't want that to come across as like I'm directing spirit to talk to me. That's not how it is. It's more or less like spirits up there willing to talk to me 24/7. And they were like waiting on me to start opening up more and being more willing to connect at that time. Does that
right.
make sense?
Yeah,
And
it
so
makes
that's what happened to
perfect
me.
sense. Makes perfect sense. They're
Yeah.
not going to push anything on you. You have to be willing and open to receive it.
Yeah. And I try to figure out, like, before, when I call it hijacking, I try to kind of investigate what did I do back then? And it had a lot to do with me being stressful and asking for help. That's when I got the remote views the most. And I started connecting the dots, right? Uh we got a lot of weather going on here and I'm getting a lot of alerts. But anyways, I started connecting the dots as to when I would get more hijacked, is because I was opening up like, oh my gosh, I don't understand. This is stressful. I don't know. I need help. And I would start getting remote views. And I would get remote views like, what's going to happen with my child? Um, what's going to happen, like at work? What's going to happen with my finances? What's going to happen? I started getting all these kind of things. There was one time I was in college and I don't know, I was sitting there like in my first, classes that I had, and I literally thought it was weird. I literally remote viewed me coming back and being a teacher. And I thought, not me. You know what I mean? Lo and behold, a year later I was back and I was a floor instructor. So those were the type of things that were happening to me.
And so, what is it you're offering people from your channel, etc., or what are you doing behind the scenes that you're offering to others?
Well, right now I do personal readings. I open up a few things. I noticed that I absolutely love doing readings. However, it's hard to kind of carve out a space for that sometimes when you're running a household and working and taking care of, my daughter has special needs. So I'm almost a full caretaker of my grandson. So I'm, doing all the running around and all of that stuff. She helps, she can take care of him when he's at home and feed him and you know what I mean? But I'm doing all of the heavy work.
Right.
And so I have a hard time doing that. So I do that. And I was offering up some remote view exercises, or how to teach people. I had some really good results out of that, actually.
That's really excellent. So, since you have a special needs daughter,
Hmm.
what has she brought to the table for your life?
Oh my gosh, this she's like the best person I've ever met in my life, right? It's like this pure heart, this pure soul that has come down and joined me. I had to have a transition because I also had to accept this child is going to be with me forever. She's on the high need, she's on the special needs, but she's pretty productive, and that helps out a lot. I mean, she has a child, right? And stuff like that, but she'll never like get a job, or she doesn't function that way. She's like a 14-year-old, a permanent 14-year-old. And so what she has brought to my life, of course, I have to learn patience and I have to learn all kinds of stuff that I don't think I would ever have gotten anywhere else other than with my daughter. And I don't know how to, it's like a gift that you didn't know you needed.
I
So,
think that's what so many find, especially those that have, mongoloid children and stuff, that they're just such a blessing. at first they come in, they go, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then they
Yeah.
find out they're such a blessing to people. So yeah, I think they bring in things for us to learn, lessons to learn, and just to show, like you said, the most beautiful heart. They're wonderful.
True. And she talks to spirits constantly. I always say that there's like a line of spirits out while she's sleeping when they're coming in, and she talks to him, and my husband had passed, so she talks to him quite often and things like that. But yeah, so she's a lot like me, but she's got this simple understanding of it. I make it complicated, but hers like, yeah, they're here. I'm just talking to them. You know what I mean? She has no, like, aren't you
I
scared? She
think
goes, what for?
they just don't have those filters in place. And
No.
so now they are saying now that ones coming in that are autistic, etc., that they are more coming in to a higher degree to bring in telepathy.
Yes, I believe that. I believe that we're misdiagnosing these children, and I think we're missing their superpower.
Right.
And it's almost like the society sees these children, and instead of recognizing the superpower, they think that they got to smash it, take care of it, medicate it, whatever they got to do to get them to be back to normal like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm really happy that you were really open to speak about that because that is such an important factor for people to understand these special children that are coming in now.
Yes, agreed. 100%. I did a remote view a while back, it's like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, about the children that are coming in and the autistic children and stuff like that. And I forget a lot of what it was about, but it was definitely on that subject where they're coming in, they're replacing us with 10 times better, ability to connect to spirit, talk to spirit, be in the here and now, and they were just, yeah. Yeah, so once we're gone, I felt really good because they're gonna just rock this world.
Yeah, I see a lot of that coming in now. We've had so many waves coming in. The first wave was in the 50s, and we've had, you know, sequential waves coming in. So what do you see now? What do you feel with this dawning of Aquarius? What's coming in for humanity? What do you see coming forward?
So I've been talking about this for quite some time. I truly believe that so if we go back into history, how many different species of humans have we had? And I truly believe that we're right now separating from species again. There's going to be the ones who accept the light, go forward into the spiritual world and reconnect with all of our intuition and stuff like that. I truly believe everybody is born with everything that we have that we need. And they're going to be the ones that are just going to refuse it. And they're not going to come with this. And I truly believe there's a separation of species going on right now, where I'm seeing it just face to face with somebody that just does not connect.
Yeah.
I find it bizarre, but I'm thinking, oh, different species. Without us looking any differently, we have intellectual, emotional, mental, um, a separation of species going on right now.
So what else would you like to tell the audience about yourself or about what you see happening with humanity, etc.?
Well, I hope I get to live long enough to see the separation be, like the elect the it's like taking cheese and stretching it as long as possible until finally that little thread breaks and then you can finally eat that piece. And that's what it kind of makes me think of. It's like it's going to stretch long enough and it's going to get so thin and that's I hope to be here when I see that string
Mhm.
uh break. And for what I want everybody, to kind of think of and realize is just we're here to hold the frequency. And that's really truly our job. If you understand what we're saying, if you connect with our words, then you are already with us. You're already there. You don't have to jump through hoops. There's no math test you got to take. You are already with us. And the continuation of that is incredibly important. And we are definitely here to hold the frequency.
Yeah. Do you see more and more light workers coming in?
I do. You know, ironically, as while I've been doing a lot of readings, I have been noticing that a lot of late, like 70s, 65, 70-year-olds are awakening in such a late age. Now, I don't want this to be, taken negatively. What I'm trying to say is, it's not normal for 70 and 60s and 70-year-olds all of a sudden wake up. It's like almost like you go to you learn what you needed to do, and then the next life you go to, and you're already on that awakened journey, and you kind of end up, like we are. However, it just feels like whatever's happening in this world, they are they are awakening sooner and sooner and sooner and sooner. And that means that instead of them having to go through this life and then start again on the next one and be awoke, they're getting it now, right here and now. It's almost like the energy is, I don't know how to explain it. Can you kind of explain what I'm trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think more and more energy is coming in. Now, I know a lot of people on my other channel that they are, the last few days, people have just been feeling this wave of energy coming in and just feeling a bit off kilter because so much is coming in so quickly now. But I agree. Some of the older people as well, they've been so repressed for so long, but now things are starting to jog and starting to break through where they're beginning to look a little deeper and expand.
Absolutely. And we welcome them, of course. They welcomed me, you know what I mean? So I'm just noticing that it's more and more of us every day, like more and more and more of us are getting oh, uh, that energy jolt, maybe the
Yeah,
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 yeah.
absolutely. And what do you feel about this division that's taking place? What do you see for the shadow side? What's taking place?
Well, it's just like, you ever like, okay, let's take biology. It kind of reminds me of this. So you take a fat cell where you've been feeding this fat cell for so, so long. And then you go on a diet and you starve that fat cell. And the reason why people have a hard time losing weight is because that fat cell is screaming to stay alive. It does everything it can to trick you, see you, want you to feed it as much, and it brings pain and chaos in your body until that cell absolutely starves itself to death and dies. Therefore, this is what we're looking at and watching. The more they push and the worse they get is just evidence that it's ending soon. I always say, like, take your best shot. Throw your what is that when you're in basketball, you throw it, it's called a, what is it called when you throw a basketball at the last second hoping you can get a Hail Mary. That's what we're at, the Hail Mary stage with them. They're doing everything they can to stay alive and not starve. And it's at one point in time, we're not going to feed it anymore. We haven't been feeding it anymore. So that's kind of my analogy. I don't know if that made any sense or not, but that's what I see humanity doing right here, right now. And the evidence that it's getting worse tells me that we're getting closer.
Darkest before the dawn.
Darkest before the dawn. Exactly. That's what happens even when our shadow work that we do for our own self. You know, if there's something that I just literally started working on arrogance with me.
Mhm.
I've been noticing a little arrogance will come out like, ooh, ooh, yeah, right? So I started looking at it, and when I started looking at it, boy, I was just like arrogant everywhere. Splatter here, splatter there. You know what I mean? It just started getting really obnoxious. And I'm like, okay, that's the moment I needed to see it clearly, to recognize what I am doing, and to really get into the option as like, do you want to keep this or do you want to let it go? Do you want to keep it or do you want to let it go? How much longer do you want this to disturb your life? And therefore, I get that option and that choice. And I think that's what life does in general, all over the world. We all have those unconscious choices. Do we want to continue with racism or do we want to really, really heal and stop this BS? And that's what we're all choosing at this point in time. Of course, it's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. And it's going to scream and yell and fight and kick and throw a tantrum before it leaves. And we all kind of know that.
So, what is the best advice that you can give people that are transitioning through this time now that are feeling, a little bit not sure because all of this energy is changing? And so, what is the advice that you can give them?
The best advice that I can give anybody that is feeling the weird, unusual energy and the awkwardness inside their body is to just be okay with it. We can function while our emotions are in turmoil. And that is some of our literal human powers that we can do. Can you only imagine back in the day when everything was trying to eat you and kill you? And those humans had to survive and they had to do what they needed to do to get through all of that fear and all of that chaos just to survive. And that's kind of how we are right now. This can be like chaos, but this and all of this focus needs to, just be okay. And I remember so many times where I would just go, whew, all right, this is an emotional day. And I got laundry to do.
There you go.
You know what I mean? And that's my best advice is like your body already knows what to do with it. Your body is feeling it because it's already ready for it. Therefore, allow your body to do what it needs to do. They used to say, let love handle it. And that's kind of how I think about it. Let your body handle it. Let love handle it. Let love do its job. Let your body do its job. And truly, I want to say this so many times to everybody. Everything is okay. There is nothing wrong, and we will all be okay.
Well, I appreciate this so much.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you, thank you, thank you for this time to share with everybody, and they get to know you a little better. And so, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, honey.
So happy to
I
have you here.
thank you.